Welcome to the story of the Element Girl Lead from the Magical Periodic Table in the Element Girl series, Book 6. In this story, you will meet lead from family 14, otherwise known as the carbon family, and lead's atomic number is 82. So my uncle was planning to buy an old house that was built before 1978, and he had to hire a contractor to do a lead test on the paint on the walls and cabinets. I wondered why. Dad said, Atom, lead in paint in older homes is a serious problem. It affects the health of young children and grown-ups. Suddenly, I had an idea, and I messaged my friends to see who was interested in visiting lead. You see, I received this magical periodic table as a birthday present a couple of years ago. And if you push on any element, you get to meet the element and ask her questions. How cool is that? My friends Exo, Endo, Isaac, Albert, and Valence all responded right away, saying they wanted to meet Led that morning. Within an hour, we met in the little park behind Cupertino Library, right under the tall redwood trees. Everyone brought something to eat after the adventure. Isaac joked, "We don't want to eat anything Led gives us, of course." We locked our bikes, spread out the periodic table on a lunch table, and pushed down the symbol PB for lead nervously, since we were going to meet the dreaded lead. The redwood trees and the library spun around us. In the next moment, we were standing in what seemed like the basement of a building. We were surrounded in all directions by a network of pipes and valves. Even though it was a large basement, I felt claustrophobic amidst all the pipes and dust. I noticed that my friends did not like it as much either. I learned in my Latin class that the ancient Romans used lead pipes. The Romans called the element plumum, and lead got the symbol Pb from the Latin name. So why won't lead meet us in Rome or some fancy place like that, instead of this dusty basement? I mused. In one corner on a table, there were some safety gears. We put on safety goggles, heavy-duty face masks, aprons, and gloves. It was quiet in the basement. We walked around the pipes waiting for lead. Then suddenly a girl walked in, carrying a bunch of heavy items in her hands. We were so nervous that none of us even had the presence of mind to offer her help. Anyway, it seemed like she did not want any help. Totally ignoring our presence, she went about arranging all the items on the floor in one corner. She wore a belt which had plumber's tools on it and also a skeleton head. Her outfit was shiny gray, red, and yellow. There was an image of the brain on her shirt. She wore a sparkling necklace with an intricate pendant on it, and also massive earrings with a couple of embossed fish. The atomic number of lead, 82, the element symbol Pb, and the word plumum were tattooed on her muscular right arm. When she walked, her boots made a heavy sound on the ground, as if they were made of heavy metal, possibly lead, I thought. Then Isaac said politely, "Do you need any help?" She turned around and studied each and every one of us without saying anything. Valence said quietly, "The periodic table sent us here." Led replied in a harsh tone, "I can see that the periodic table sent you all here. Do you have your questions written down?" There were no warm greetings or friendly introductions. We shook our heads, and Exo said, "No, we thought you would explain things to us, and then we could ask questions." Led stared at Exo and said, "I expect the students who meet me to do their homework and come prepared with questions. I don't have all day to entertain you all, unlike my sisters or cousins. I can give you 5 minutes to come up with your questions." I quickly brought out my sketch pad, which I carry with me everywhere, since I love to draw and paint. All of us huddled together, and Endo volunteered to jot down our questions. Then Endo said, "These questions that we wrote down and her answers will hopefully help us to come up with more questions later." Looking at all the questions we wrote down in less than 5 minutes, Valence remarked, "Thank goodness. We discussed a whole lot about lead in our science class, and we still remember most of it. Albert walked up to Led and said, "We have our questions now." Led, who was opening the paint cans, looked up at Albert and sat on one of the pipes. Seeing that Led was listening, Albert continued, "We know this is the basement of a large building. Where exactly are we though? Also, because there are pipes all around, I'm guessing that we are here to learn about the dangers of lead-contaminated water." Led answered, "This is the city of Flint in Michigan." We were a bit downcast at the thought that she believed we did not do our homework about lead before visiting her. So all of us started telling her about how we had discussed in our science class about the corroding lead pipes in Flint and how it affected the drinking water quality and the health of the people. Led interrupted and said, "Since you guys know about it, why don't you tell me what you learned?" Valence responded. In 2014, Flint's water supply was switched from Detroit's water supply to save money. They took water from the Flint River and ran the untreated corrosive water through the city's lead pipes. This caused lead contamination of the drinking water and affected thousands of people of all ages, particularly young children. Led nodded and waited, as if she wanted us to tell her more. I said, "Children who drink lead-contaminated water will develop behavior issues, learning disabilities, impaired growth, hearing issues, and all that. Lead affects pregnant women and their unborn babies. Consuming lead-tainted water also causes problems for grown-ups, such as heart issues, high blood pressure, kidney problems, and reproductive problems." Led nodded again and waited for us to continue. Isaac said, "We learned that as part of some kind of settlement, many of the lead pipes are being replaced in Flint. The government is giving people filters, facilities to monitor and test their tap water, and the city and state have to obey the orders set by the Environmental Protection Agency." I saw a flicker of a smile on Led's face and realized that she liked our answers. Pointing to the brain image on her shirt, Led replied, "Lead does affect the learning abilities of children whose brains are still developing. Lead is a neurotoxin, and children exposed to lead will have long-lasting detrimental effects on their behavior, learning, paying attention, and physical well-being. They could develop Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's later on in life." All of us nodded gravely, thinking about the lead test that my uncle was planning to do for the old home that he was buying. I asked, "Why was lead added to paints in the first place? What lead compounds were there, and what were their colors? If someone buys an old house, why should they do a lead paint test?" Led gathered all her paint materials on the floor and opened all 3 cans of paint. The paint colors she had were white, red, and yellow. She dipped a brush in the white paint and said, "The white paint is lead 2 carbonate. The yellow is lead chromate and the red is lead tetroxide. I am a heavy metal, which means these paint compounds dry fast and moisture in the air does not affect them. So they were used in homes built before 1978. The United States government banned leaded paints after that. So any old home that was built before 1978 needs to have a lead paint test to protect the families that would live in it." I took notes so that I could share them with my family. It was Endo's turn to ask questions. She inquired, "Why is there an unleaded sign in gas stations?" Led put away her paints and replied, "Lead was added to gasoline in the early 1920s to make the automobile engines perform better. The lead compound was tetraethyl lead, and it is poisonous. The environment was exposed to the lead from the exhaust, and it became a serious health and environmental issue. Unleaded gasoline was introduced in the mid-1970s. In 1996, leaded gasoline was banned for all vehicles that run on roads. I believe as of mid-2021, leaded gasoline has been stopped around the globe. Isaac asked, who came up with this idea of adding lead to gasoline to make engines work better? Lead rolled her eyes and answered, an American engineer named Midgley invented this. She continued, by the way, he also invented chlorofluorocarbons. Do you know what they are? Albert raised his hand and responded. They are chemicals used to make refrigerants in the past, but they destroy the ozone layer and are responsible for creating ozone holes. They were banned sometime in the late 1980s. Lead nodded approvingly and said, yes, Midgley invented two dangerous things that were harmful to the entire globe. And people blamed the elements? An element needs to be used carefully and in such a way that no harm is done. Everything is in the hands of the people who decide how to use the elements and their compounds. All of us applauded. Lead heaved a big sigh as if she had been waiting to tell us the importance of respecting all elements and putting them to good use. Then she picked up a large crystal bowl and asked, why did I bring this? Exo jumped in and said, I think it is a lead crystal bowl. My mom and I saw it once in an antique shop. We did not buy it because my mom got scared hearing that it is lead crystal. Is there lead in it? Lead replied, correct. Lead oxide is added to glass to increase its refractive index, and it makes the glass reflect better than regular glass. It is not a crystal, by the way. It is glass with lead in it, and one should not drink or eat anything in it. Lead can leach through the food or drink into the body. Then she continued, the thin strip of metal that holds the stained glass windows is made of lead. I thought that you would like to know that. Lead packed the bowl in a carton carefully. Captivated by her fish earrings and the intricately shaped pendant on her necklace, I asked, your earrings and pendant are unusual designs and quite spectacular. Can you please tell us what they signify? Lead took off her earrings to show it to us closely and inquired, anyone likes to go fishing? Valence exclaimed, oh my family and I go fishing all the time. These earrings are fishing weights or sinkers. Lead said, yes, some states have banned the use of lead fishing sinkers for environmental and health reasons. She wore her earrings and then said, now for the pendant. As you know, lead is an element known since ancient times, just like my sister tin. The pattern on the pendant is the alchemical symbol for lead, which is the same symbol that the alchemists used for the planet Saturn. Then Endo asked, I read somewhere that the Roman Empire got destroyed by the use of lead. We learned about the aqueducts lined with lead and the lead plumbing in ancient Rome. Could you please tell us anything else? Lead nodded and replied, lead acetate is a sweet compound formed when lead reacts with vinegar or fruit juice like grape juice. The Romans boiled grape juice in lead containers and lead acetate was created. They added this syrup to their wine to sweeten it. Later, it is claimed that they even made crystals of lead acetate, similar to sugar crystals, to sweeten the wine. Lead acetate, or the sugar of lead as it was called, is poisonous, and drinking wine with lead acetate in it probably led to the decline of the Roman Empire. I also want to tell you how some lead compounds were used in eye makeup and face makeup by the Egyptians, Romans, and also the 16th century English nobility. Well, in modern times, lead acetate was added to hair dye and the United States government has put a ban on it." All of us exclaimed, "Wow, can't believe this." Taking a deep breath, Endo asked politely, "Are there any applications of lead that are not harmful?" Lead turned to the corner where she had left all the things she had brought. Then, pointing to what looked like a large battery, she said, "That is an automobile lead acid battery. It is still being used in gas-powered cars. Electric vehicles use lithium-ion batteries. A lithium-ion battery, more energy can be stored, 95% of the stored energy can be used, and it has a longer lifespan. However, lead-acid batteries are still widely used because they're cheaper than lithium-ion batteries. Even though the lead-acid battery recycling rate is high, many countries do not follow the proper safety guidelines, thus endangering the health of the people and the environment." For a few minutes, all of us were busy taking notes, and Led started to pack up all the items she brought for easy carrying. Isaac asked, "Maybe it is getting late for you, but one more question, please." Led looked up and nodded. Isaac continued, "When my dentist takes an X-ray of my tooth, I have to wear a heavy lead apron. Apparently, it's done for safety purposes. But why is there lead in the apron?" Led straightened up and smiled. It was the first time we actually saw her smile. Then she said, "Well, my density is rather high, 11.3 grams per cubic centimeter at room temperature. This means that the atoms in a piece of lead are tightly packed together, and X-ray and gamma radiation have a hard time going through it. Or in other words, a sheet of lead can block X-ray and gamma radiation. This is very useful in fields such as medicine and nuclear power. This is an application I am proud of." All of us applauded. Then Valence jumped in excitedly and asked, "Oh, before the meeting finishes, I have to ask you this, please. We have a family friend who's a scuba diver, and he told us that he carries lead weights when he dives so that he can position himself properly underwater. Can you please tell us something about it?" Led picked up a few of the items she had brought and answered. "Lead, as I mentioned before, has a high density, which means it can be a very compact weight, easy to carry. So scuba divers carry lead weight as a weight belt or ankle weight or weight on their air tanks in order to stay underwater. The lead weights help them to offset the buoyancy of the water, which tries to push them up." Led paused, heaved a deep sigh, and said, "I need to get going now. I have some educational workshops about lead safety where I'm presenting that I need to get to. I hope I answered all your questions." We thanked her and offered help to carry the stuff she brought. She declined our offer, saying that it was safe for her to carry everything. We said bye, waving frantically at her, and in the next moment we were back under the redwood trees in Cupertino. I kind of felt a bit sad in my heart. I told my friends so, and they said that they felt the same way. We all agreed that human beings need to use elements responsibly. We cannot blame the elements for any harm that may arise from using them. We need to research the elements and put them to good and safe applications. We spent the next hour under the trees, eating our snacks, drinking ice-cold clean water, feeling grateful that it was lead-free, and talking about lead. Then my friends left for their homes, and I walked back home slowly, reminiscing about all the things that Led told us. After dinner, I played with my pet dog Electron and then packed my backpack for school. Spring break was over, and I needed a good night's rest before school the next morning. It was a well-spent spring break indeed. Thanks for listening.